Welcome back to the talk tonight. Life in prison, no eligibility for parole ever. Punishment doled out to the convicted killer and child rapist in Onondaga County Court this morning. David Renz obviously got his hair cut since his last appearance. Largely looks the same as he did otherwise, and certainly an emotionally packed day in court today. Michael Benny joins us for the talk tonight. And Michael was there in court with pretty much the same view you just saw there.
Yeah, right next to those cameras.
Yeah, during that proceeding. What was your sense while you were there today? I know you talked to people outside afterwards. Yeah. You took pictures, but you were in that courtroom. What was it like?
It was sort of heavy, that's for sure. I didn't know whether we should expect that David Renz might say anything. Every person who's about to be shipped off to prison for their crime is afforded that opportunity. It was so quick, I almost missed it. Judge Miller saying, you know, now you have an opportunity if you'd like to say something, Mr. Renz, and he sort of in a hushed tone said, "No, Your Honor." That was it. I mean, he said 3 words publicly all day. There was a little bit of chit-chat with his attorney as they signed some paperwork where he actually signed that paper that said he will never appeal this. This is it.
Right.
He'll never come back and say, oh, I didn't get proper representation, I wasn't afforded this, that, the other thing. That's it. No appeal.
The paper also says, though, that he'll receive some special treatment, that he'll be housed in an area at Clinton Correctional that will afford him some protection, which people on on social media are not happy with at all. People are calling basically for his head,
of course,
in a very public hanging kind of way, which I'm not sure that speaks all that well for our community, but people are talking like that when the case is resolved now and the family tries to move on.
The fact of the matter is that most people in our community want David Renz to go away, never be seen or heard from again. However, I think there's a really unique opportunity here, and we heard just a couple of minutes ago, FBI profilers are going to be going in to talk to him, to learn about him, what goes on in his brain, what made him so obsessed with child pornography, and then wanting to mimic those acts and carry them out on poor Lori Bresnahan, this little girl. But there is an opportunity for us to learn from him so that we can prevent this kind of thing from happening again. Yeah,
that's a good point. And then we've had so many cases of child pornography arrests, especially in the internet era, that sometimes you wonder, oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. It starts to just tick off as another case. But in this one, boy, it sure did magnify greater than anyone would have ever imagined. We're going to hear from the mother at 6. We haven't really heard from her yet, but
no, and I had never met her until today.
She seems just as slight as her son.
She is. She's just as slight physically as her son, but I found her to be. I wasn't prepared for my reaction to her. She was very calm. She almost seemed sweet. That if I had known her in some other circle, or unrelated obviously to the hell of this case,
she was a neighbor or something,
that I would find her to be a very likable woman. She reiterated over and over again how she's praying for the family of Lori Bresnahan, and it's not much of an exchange at the end. She came with some ideas of what she wanted to get across. And really didn't want to take too much pressing afterwards.
Yeah, which is understandable. You mentioned the family of Lori Bresnahan. Jim OHara, who's the longtime reporter and covered the legal system here in Syracuse for the Post-Standard for really a generation or so. Jim was the spokesperson for the Bresnahan family today, and on the iPad we have just the tail end of his comment today. He said, you know, there is no closure, there never will be. I can only hope the hollowness I feel and can't adequately describe will only lessen with time. In the meantime, thoughts of Lori's loving spirit warm my heart, but the picture of Lori's smile, which we showed so many times on the news, brings tears to my eyes every time. And he so adequately represents the family and their emotions.
And I think that's such a good point, too, because oftentimes when we cover these cases, you know, we say to the family, does this bring you closure? Or, you know, how are you feeling after this? There is never closure for these families. No. I mean, because their loved one is never coming back. There's nothing you can say or do that will make them feel better.
Right. And Jim OHara, more than anyone else in this entire community, has spoken with more sons, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters of murder victims, as you mentioned, for a generation, covering courts like nobody else. He's a fantastic reporter. He said in open court today, Your Honor, I thought that my reporting, my good reporting, was giving these families some measure of something. He says, no way. Not until you're on the other end of it do you ever realize.
Sadly, he knows. Our conversation continues in a moment. Another major story today in the Marcellus School District. We've been telling you about this, well, since about noontime today, the way the district handled what was deemed a credible threat by a couple of students who had created a plan where they intended violence, according to police. We'll talk about that in a moment.